The church becomes more like Jesus in relationship to Him as the Spirit changes us and as we love God, the church, and neighbor. And so a decision to be part of our church family is a significant step on our faith journey. And so today we're going to take another step forward to explore what does it look like to form relationships in our church so that they grow and they thrive. And how does that happen? I think about this verse that Jesus said, "By this everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another." It's one thing to commit to a church, it's one thing to come to a gathering, but it is another thing entirely to love each other as Christ has loved us, so that our church functions like family and so that the world encounters God. Because God's love brings people together. And for a church, our love is what brings people into God's presence. So I want to look at chapter 3 on love. It's on page 31. If you want to kind of follow along, take notes, there's questions that we'll reflect on, and I'll bring out those page numbers. But I think love is a significant topic. It's what Jesus describes here as what defines people's perception of the reality of God. Love is also a favorite topic of poets and philosophers because it's fundamental to being human. I think about the love that we got to express recently at Jubilee Reach, making some breakfast for kids in our community from families in need. Everyone agrees that love is key, but not everyone agrees on the definition. I think of these different top love songs, dabbling in ChatGPT. Thank you. And this is what it said. These are some of the top love songs. We got Harry Styles. "I'd walk through fire for you. Just let me adore you." I'm not going to sing it. I'm just going to speak it. We got Foreigner. "Through the clouds, I see love shine. Keep me warm as life grows colder." We got Frankie Valli. "At long last, love has arrived, and I thank God I'm alive." Some of you guys know these songs. "Are you the one I've been waiting for? I've been waiting for." That's Coldplay. It's more my jam. So when you think about what love is, there's different expressions. These are different pictures of love that I've experienced. That's me on the bottom with Ligaya serving on a mission trip together, loving others. It's me and my closest friend as I was a kid. We were good friends. It's me on our wedding day. That's Papa and Ligaya walking down. You know, love matters to us. And when I think about love from a biblical perspective, I think about God's covenant love. I think God's love is best explained in the Bible by this practice of covenant. And covenant is an ancient Near Eastern term that was describing a partnership between maybe two kings or two families, two businesses. And they made a vow that they'd be better together, to partner together, and then using their resources to make something new. And so you can think of it today, present day, in terms of marriage. People talk about it as a covenant where two families come together to create something new. And in the Bible, the God, our God, is the first and most repeated covenant maker because he committed himself to humanity to partner together to create a good world, but humanity kept falling short. They kept failing to do their part. That's why the Bible is so long. Yet God kept pursuing humanity to partner because of his covenant love, which we see, I think, best in Genesis 15. This is a story of Abraham, who we look to in terms of understanding faith. This builds on last night, the topic of faith, trusting God. And on this faith journey that Abraham had, it gets to a point where God makes a covenant with him. God made a vow with Abraham to redeem all creation. And in this ritual of making a covenant, they'd walk through cut animals, and it was an act of saying, may this happen to me, death, if I don't fulfill this covenant, if I don't keep my end of the deal. But what do we read here? It said that it was God's presence that passed between the pieces. Abraham was sleeping. And so only God's glory passed through to show that his committed love is what's going to seal this deal. And so God himself proclaimed how he would take the full consequence of whatever happened in this partnership together, whether it was Abraham or his descendants. Think about that. God said he would take on the consequence, which is death, if this covenant is broken. I think that is what true love is. And ultimately, Jesus fulfilled this covenant. Jesus, who died on the cross for us, for the whole world, he fulfilled this covenant. He demonstrated God's love, but do you see that he also fulfilled God's commitment? God's committed to those who trust in God like Abraham. Yes, he loves the whole world, and there's a partnership that he seeks to have with us. And if we trust in Jesus, we experience and we receive God's love in a relationship to him. And so I think as we're talking about love, we're thinking about those love songs. It's important that we define what love is according to who Jesus is, what he's done for us. And Jesus defines what love is by his sacrifice for humanity who did not deserve it, but who God desires to save because of his unconditional love. So, bottom line, the cross reveals God's love and his covenant love. And then, as the story of Jesus continues, it's important to see that it's also the resurrected life of Jesus, that he rose from the dead, and that now he resources God's people who trust in Jesus to love others through the power of the Holy Spirit. That's what we talked about last night. And so our partnership is in tune with the Holy Spirit as we align our heart to him and we receive his resources to be able to love others like Jesus and more like Jesus. So the covenant love that we talk about, this is foundational for the church. This is from which we build the church upon what Christ has done for us. This is from which our love grows to create a caring community at Anthem Church. This is probably my favorite Bible verse. We love because he first loved us. That's it. That's what it means to be the church. And so our commitment to each other is both demonstrated by and resourced from the love of Jesus in us. And so that is what's going to help us love others. Now, as we think about love, giving and receiving love, we all experience love differently. So if you want to look on page 32 with maybe a song in your mind, maybe an experience of love. And then as we look at the scriptures and what Jesus shows us, we all experience love differently. And so it's normal to miss the mark. We can want to sacrifice ourselves for others, but we don't feel like it's necessarily received as what we intended. And so we want to care, we want to express how we receive love to others, but maybe others receive it different from us. That's where I love this help that's called 5 Love Languages. It's a framework to understand that the way that we give and receive love might be different between how I do it, how Lagaya does it, how Alvin does it, how Taylor does it. We all give and receive love in different ways. It's all love, but there's a nuance to it. So we need to learn how to love in different ways so people receive our love in the way they experience it best. And so I want to just read these. There's 5 words of affirmation. Some people really feel loved when you share kind and genuine words that build them up. Acts of service, doing something to meet a need for them. Gift giving, demonstrating care through an intentional item. I know that one in our family. Man, when I come home with something for Lagai, I can just see how she just comes alive. Quality time as well, coming together for an intentional experience, physical touch, expressing your affection through appropriate gestures. Now, there's a conversation that occurred in terms of love languages for churches. And it was interesting, there was someone that was part of the multi-ethnic church movement that talked to the gentleman that put this together, and they agreed that for churches, especially multi-ethnic churches, there's actually a 6th love language. Can you guess what it is? You'll laugh at when you hear. It's so obvious. Food. Yeah. Oh, man. So maybe that's your love language too. I know that love language. Being part of a Filipino family, it's a blessing. Too much of a blessing sometimes. We're working on that. So, what is your love language? And then as we think about this, we've talked about this as a church in the past, and now I think this second part is even more relevant for us. How do we make our love last? Because one thing to give when it's exciting and new, then as you spend more and more time together and you rub each other the wrong way, and maybe you feel like you're not giving and receiving as the way that you originally wanted. Compassion. You know what compassion means? It means that you suffer with. So think about God is compassionate, right? Practicing empathy where you feel for each other. I think that's important, but going beyond empathy to listen to each other, to accept each other, to really engage with each other, to be with each other, even when it's hard. Friendship, spending time together outside of the church gathering. So really connecting beyond the event, sharing a meal, hanging out with each other, going to a ball game. You know, we were talking about doing some block parties or barbecues this summer. I mean, what a great way to partner together and build friendship as we're reaching out. And then commitment. I think meeting needs and honoring our commitment that we take responsibility for each other. We talked about that last night. I think understanding that God has put these relationships in our life for a purpose for us, beyond me, to help others follow Jesus should reframe our expectations of love. That's not about me. That God put me here to help others. And so when we have that ministry mindset, we're committed for the long haul. And I appreciate the message on Sunday that Gonzo prepared for us. He talked about sometimes we feel this need to just kind of, it's not working out in this church, I'm going to go try somewhere else. Like maybe what we need is to deepen the relationships that we have. And I think that's what this weekend's accomplishing. And I think it's just a starting point. It's a launching. So how do we make love last? Showing compassion, connecting as friends, a commitment to each other. So we're going to take a few minutes in your rows just to have a conversation together about this. So you'll see on page 32 and 33 these different love languages. And I would just say, just talk about this. How do you give and receive love? What's your love language? How can we understand meeting your needs?